office that don't just give lip service to things that we care about. I want you to stay engaged. I never would want this to be about Todd Young. So if you come to like me as a person, that should be irrelevant. Ultimately, I'm here. I'm just the guy standing out in front of the parade this year, right? And, you know, you stop marching if the destination I indicate I'm headed for is not where I ultimately end up. So, yes, thank you very much, sir. We'll continue back in that corner. Yes, sir. Checkered shirt. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Ron Smith, and I'm one of these gray heads or blue heads in here. And I would like to say first and foremost that I paid into Social Security, which some of you people consider a Ponzi scheme. I'm not saying this is necessarily your case, I don't know yet. But I'm very concerned because I can tell you that after paying into Social Security for 50 years, right now my CDs are drawing 1.25%. I got a rental house that I'm really not making anything on it anymore since that's all changed. Wish I didn't have it. But anyway, to make a long story short, I'd like to know your position.
I'd love to get into
what you intend to do about Social Security. And it's my understanding that Mr. Hill, I don't know what the deal is on him, but he made some kind of pledge that he says that he would not mess with Social Security, whatever that means. But I can tell you I'm going to be homeless if you mess with it very much.
Well, he pledged he would not mess with Social Security, but we just spent $1 trillion on a stimulus package. We have failed to pass a budget. We have out-of-control spending. And everyone seems to be under the impression across this country that when they pay payroll taxes, that money is being set aside for their retirement. Barron Hill is undermining this Social Security program, ladies and gentlemen. It's the largest nest egg for millions of Americans. That is wrong. It's wrong. So, first thing we have to do is stop taking money that people perceive to be set aside for their retirement and spending it on all manner of other things. That's step number one. Second, yes, I will, sir. I will absolutely pledge to current retirees and those approaching retirement that we must honor our commitments to them. To me, this is a moral issue. People spend decades stowing away certain amounts of money for their retirement, for their family's retirement, and they factor in to those retirement plans the promised benefits that Uncle Sam has given. So we're going to have to honor those commitments because those people who are approaching retirement beyond, don't have an opportunity to change their saving patterns. There's not enough time. So absolutely, I have pledged to Barron Hill to commit to making Social Security sustainable into the future because it's so important, and he won't do it. So I would challenge Mr. Hill to do that. And then, no. Well, let me fully articulate. Let me fully articulate my position. Well, the stock market wouldn't be so darn volatile if Barron Hill hadn't just voted for a financial services reform package. That didn't reform Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. I hear everyone reading it back to me. It's such common sense, right? Now this is, I'm not going to gloss over these things. The reason Social Security has become an issue, perhaps the reason that gentleman asked the question, is because I decided to speak out about this important issue. We have, when I started this campaign, it was $60 trillion in unfunded liabilities in this country. That's $500,000 for every family of 4 in America. Now, a lot of that has to do with these programs, like Social Security. They're not funded because politicians have irresponsibly spent money we didn't have on things we didn't need for years and years. I won't do that. That's right. Some of the hard choices. People my age. I'm 38, all right? Why don't we inch up the retirement age for people my age? All right, so let's start with that. I can deal with that. I got plenty of time to adjust, so we can live with that. Consider indexing the retirement age to the increase in expected life expectancy, okay? That's another thing we can do for people my age. That would also help make the program solvent, sir. So those are some of the ideas you start with. Now, Baron Hill, he's tried to make an issue out of this, and I know why. He's tried to make an issue out of this because, as I said early on, his only hope is to distract everyone here from his stimulus, from his cap and trade, from his health care votes, which could bankrupt this country. The only reason this is being talked about, rather than some of the other issues that are so important to us, but it backfired on Baron. Because Baron Hill held a press release. The press wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention. He wanted to get some ink on this. So he stood up, and one of the enterprising reporters actually asked him, well, what will you do? You've been here for 10 years. What plans have you presented to make this important program sustainable into the future? And his response was, his first response, it had nothing to do with raising the retirement age. His first instinct was to say, well, I think we have to start looking at raising taxes. So, those who are craving a more concrete plan, I'll say to you this. When Baron Hill tells us who he's going to raise taxes on and what rate, then I will respond. All right?
You brought up the bill that was just passed about the financial bill, the
yes,
regulation bill. Is it true? I've heard that businesses. I employ other people, and I'm going to have to now, when that takes effect, generate a 1099 for every purchase over $600 that I make to the company, the supplier. And if that's true, when does it take effect, and what are the penalties for not doing that? I mean, I'd have to hire another person just to do that.
That 1099 provision, I believe, is in the healthcare legislation, but nonetheless, it's
in the
bad.
Okay, all right.
Right. It is going to require, as I understand it, I've seen this repeated a number of times, that if you shop at Staples, you're a small business person, and cumulatively over the year, you buy $600 or more worth of printer toner and staples and rubber bands and paper clips, then you're going to have to file a 1099. I mean, that's how oppressive this is. So won't that require hiring more IRS agents? Of course it will. And I guess those are the jobs that Baron Hill is saying have been created, right?
Is there any way to repeal that?
Is there a way to repeal it? Yes, absolutely. You go in there and repeal that specific provision of the law by enacting other legislation. It requires a majority in both houses of Congress, and it's going to require the president to sign it as well. Unless we get such a majority that we can override any veto that might be forthcoming. I'm hopeful, but we're going to have to stay vigilant, do all we can. Yes, sir.
Irresponsible spending in government starts right here in small towns, cities.
It does.
And we have towns and city governments out of control right now. Every time they can't meet their budget, they go out and want to annex more property. And that's how they meet their budget, by going out and scooping up more land around them, and then raising the taxes on these people and enforcing them to hook up the sewers and all the other expenses that they didn't want. And I want to get the Indiana state statute on annexation to where, instead of us petitioning against it, that you have to reach a percentage to do that.
Sure.
For them to petition the property owners, like in all the other 44 states in the country, they have to do that. Now, 6 states out of the whole country are under that same statute, where they can go ahead and annex them, and then the people have to fight it. And I'd like to see the Indiana get their statute turned around and follow along with the other 44 states, and make the cities and the towns petition that